Alright, so I got another font for you today, and I thought I'd kind of do a couple things with this video. I was going to show you this font Skyline that I just got done with, and it's now available, but also to kind of show you a behind-the-scenes bird's eye view process and the software I use to create a font like this. I keep getting asked this question, and it's a very lengthy process, so I thought I'd just kind of show you just the overall thinking behind it and what I do as I go through it to create one of these things. Some sort of time lapse from soup to nuts creation of a font like this would be a terribly long video. So I'll just show you an overall process, and I'm sure you guys can get going if you want to try this on your own. So the font, though, is called Skyline, and my full intention behind this font was to create something that I could see myself getting a lot of use out of. So in the past few projects that I've been working on in thumbnails and stuff, I've noticed that I've been using a lot of these block letter fonts that have some sort of little style or flourish to them. So I thought I'd try a stab at it and see if I could create my own font that kind of goes in that category. So this is what I came up with, and your basic character set is there. All the punctuation you probably need is there. There's a lot of extra characters that I didn't do, but if there's a demand for it down the road, I may revisit it and expand it out. So before I get into the process, though, of how this font was created, a big thank you to my buddy Jared. He runs a site called Sweyda.com, and he is a super talented illustrator and artist and typeface creator. So he's linked up below. If you get a chance, please go check out his stuff, and if you can, go pester him on Twitter and tell him Evan says thank you. He's definitely helped me out on things to look for when creating fonts, and just how to, specifically consistency and details. So he's a really good guy, and yeah, please tell him I said hello and check out his stuff. He's got a lot of fonts that you can purchase and pick up, and they're all really good. They're very well done font sets, and I've used them a lot in artwork that I've done. So go check him out, and yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of use out of the fonts he's got. So yeah, so Skyline's available below, link below, and since you're just watching a screen with just this on it, I better switch gears and kind of show you the process of putting together one of these fonts. So you're probably going to think that I start right in Illustrator or something. No, actually what I do is I drew a bunch of little squares. So let me show you this. So this is a document that is just set to 8.5 by 11. And what I have is little 1.5 inch tall by 1 inch wide squares that have a very light gray border that you probably can't see very well, and a vertical, horizontal, or just a vertical line that splits it down the middle. And what I do with these is they're 8.5 by 11 at 150 dpi, and I can print them out on my desktop printer, and I can use this to sketch each little glyph or character in that I want to sketch out. Right. So the next step would be is print this out, and then grab a ruler and a pencil and maybe some pins, and just start designing your typeface. Now Skyline started out something like this. I went in thinking I want to do a block letter. I don't know what the widths of the columns and arms and all that should be yet, but this is where I figured it out. So as you can see, you know, I started with kind of a much thicker type font, and then I slowly decided, nah, I think I need something a little thinner, and I liked the how the top of the A was, and so I just, this is how you kind of find your way of what you want the overall font to look like. Now you can draw out each little character if you want, or you can just do the main ones that you think you'll need, just to kind of sketch it out and get an idea of what you want the overall font set to look like. So this is then a scan back in. So I printed out that grid, and actually I'll put a PNG of this below that you guys can download and just print it out and try this out. Now, depending on what type of font face you want, though, or how you want the letters to be, you may want to do a new grid that's twice the height as one of these, but retains the width for a super condensed version, or maybe you want to do a super wide version, so you want 2 of these, you know, wide, or it really depends on what your overall goal is with the font. So I was going for something that was a little more, you know, taller than wider, and just looking at uppercase letters. So I have a hard time with like the letter B and stuff, so I was drawing out the B, and I have a hard time with S's and ampersands and stuff like that. So this is just kind of the exploration and trying to figure out where you want to go with it. Next step would be, after scanning this thing and possibly cleaning it up if you want to, is I take it into Illustrator, And as you can see in the background here, I have my original scan. I have it dimmed down 50% so I can just kind of start tracing over it. And as you can see, the A's are very, very close. So I started with the letter A, and I was liking how it turned out. And I started to find the pieces of this A that, let me hide these guides, that I could see as being a consistent type of part, basically, to the letter. So if you look up here, you know, I have these random parts that I noticed I was using in this letter A that it made sense to have to keep things consistent. So you would want to drag out a bunch of guides so you know where you know, the arms of your letters are consistent. Make sure, like, you know, the arm of the A and the B are on the same level, and the G and the E and all that stuff, and just to make sure that you're keeping each letter well, consistent. One thing that I noticed I ran into is you'll get going on A, and then by the time you get to Z, one big telltale sign is, do Z and A still fit together in the same family, especially if you've designed in alphabetical order, because by then it's, you know, you're 26 characters later. It's like, I hope I'm still in the same family, because it's very easy to kind of start losing your way, or at least I do, and the end of your font set looks nothing like the beginning of your font set. So you may want to just kind of pick and choose which letters you want to do first, just to kind of create a family and then get going. And like I said, you want to keep a lot of copies of the vector elements that you want to use. So things like the width of the columns and the arms are always the same width that I use in this font set. Now that changes depending on what you're creating, but you know, once you start finding a consistent some consistent pieces that you're going to use, make sure you keep copies of these, and you can use them throughout your the vectorizing of your letter set. So after this, I would take each letter, and then I use a program called Font Creator. And you would actually, for me, I just Control-C, copy that letter, and then open up this type of program, and then you can actually go in and dump in your letter, paste in each individual glyph, and it does get, this is why I said it does get very time consuming. So as far as I know, most font editors or type editors are pretty much the same. Now saying that, I haven't used a lot of them, but most of them have some sort of setup like this, to where you can see the cap height, or the height of the letter if it was a capital letter. You have usually your lowercase letter heights, and you have your baseline. Now the baseline is pretty important. Well, it's extremely important because if you have things lower than the baseline, that's how it's going to appear, you know, when you're typing this stuff out. So I use Font Creator. Now there's a trial version, a freebie version of this, but you can't export the end font. So this one, I actually after I got a sense that I liked how it was working and liked it, I just went ahead and bought a license for it, and now I can export all my OpenType and TrueType fonts and give them to you guys. So this one's pretty cool because it's got a real-time editor, so I can look at all my uppercase letters, and then as I'm doing edits to that letter, say I want to give this more space on the right, if I drag out, you know, where the right side of this letter ends, I'll see it happen real time up in the preview. So it's pretty cool stuff like that. You can see different character sets and see what you're missing, what you need. Gives you an idea of, does the whole thing look consistent while you're putting this thing together. And then there is a kind of a full-blown preview tool where you can just go in and just start typing, you know, and see how things are looking. So it's a pretty cool little program. Like I said, I like it a lot, so I'm going to continue using this one. And this is where your font actually gets put together. Now from here, then you would export this font. So you would basically file export, and you can set up if you want to export it as a TrueType or an OpenType font. Now for Windows, once you do that, it basically spits out a file that you can, if it's TrueType or OpenType, you can right click and install. And this is Windows 7. You can do that on Windows 8, I'm sure. For Mac, I think you can do something similar. I forget how you install fonts on Mac. I do it so rarely that by the time I go back to do it, I have to go look at tutorials and remember how to install fonts. But it should be a one-step process, if I'm not mistaken, to just install a font. So once you install it, then you can go back to, say, Photoshop, and then you should have a editable font just like that. And yeah, you can just type with it and create your artwork. Now, all my fonts, I've confused a couple people on accident. I always preface my fonts with EE for Evan Eckert. So if you're looking for, say, the Skyline font, you're looking in the S's of your font directory. So if I go in here and I start looking for Skyline down in the S's, it's not going to be there. It's going to be under EE. All my fonts have EE appended to them. So look in that section and you should find everything. So that's kind of all there is to it. Like I said, it is a longer process. I spend most of my time in Illustrator actually doing the vector process and making sure each one of these are consistent and they make sense and look like they're still all in the same family. You want to make sure you have things like maybe snapping turned on and things like that, so you can, when moving letters around, or you're going to do a lot of copying and pasting. So I noticed, excuse me, I noticed that say I'm doing the number 6, I'll copy my S, and start hacking pieces off and putting new pieces on just to keep a consistency, or I'll use the O for the 0 or the O for the Q, stuff like that. So you're going to copy and paste a lot of letters, and that'll in itself help keep things a little bit more consistent. Also, if you've never used Pathfinder in Illustrator, that's going to become one of your best friends in Illustrator. So Pathfinder is a palette that lets you combine pieces or combine vector elements and basically trim them and crop them and cut them apart, and to really enable you to put these things together. Yeah, so you can keep just real clean shapes for your letters, because you don't want a lot of points, you don't want a lot of extras that you don't need in the font. You just want enough points to make that glyph the way you want it. So see the G here, and there's just enough points to give it that G shape. There's no extras in line, stuff like that. So and that's one thing Jared pointed out to me. He's like, you got some extra points over here. I was like, oh man, I missed one. So make sure you get rid of the stuff you don't need, because that does make the actual file heavier. So like if I look at properties, yeah, this thing's 20K, so it's not bad at all. That's kind of what to look for. So the process is, unless you're jumping straight into Illustrator, is to sketch, scan it, jump in Illustrator and vectorize it, and then start exporting and importing each little glyph into some sort of font creator program. And from there you should be able to export as a TrueType or OpenType and install it to use elsewhere. So that's pretty much it. And once you install it as a font, you can use it in any type editor. So anything. You can run this in Notepad if you want to. Yeah, and put it wherever you want. So you should end up with an actual TrueType font, which is what you're downloading off my site. So I hope this kind of got rid of a little bit of the mystery of one of these fonts, and just kind of show you the process behind it. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll put a link to this font creator software that I use. It's by a company called High Logic, and yeah, it's about all I can think of. So yeah, so Skyline available below. If you want to donate, that would be awesome, and I'll put one of those grids up that you guys can check out as well. So hope it's as clear as mud. Just kidding. Thanks for sticking around, and again, hope you get some use out of it, and I will be back with more later on. All right, thanks all.